Memento just flipped things on their head, you know, in a way. We've seen since Memento, and obviously we're all very aware of the genius of Chris Nolan. He's like no one else.
Very excited to be chatting with today, Guy, about the Infernal Machine, your new movie, directed by the incredible Andrew Hunt, who I had a chance to talk to prior to this conversation. And man, what a great guy!
Yeah, he's awesome.
Right, he is such a great guy to talk to. Very easy. I'd love to know a little bit about your experience working with him on the film.
He was just a delight. He really was. He was so open, and you know, it was funny because when I read the script, I just was like, wow, this is like reading Memento all over again. It really was, you know, it really was that kind of sort of surprising to me. And when Richard Guardian, who sent me the script, had sent it to me, he said, look, we're kind of out to another actor at the moment, but in case it doesn't work out, would you like to please have a look at this? This might be something you're interested in. So of course I read it and immediately was like, oh, I have to do this. Who's that other actor? I had to find out, like, is it not who is the other actor, but is that other actor going to do it or not? Because I really don't want them to. I really want to do this. And I read it and was really impressed with the script, and I was sort of intimidated by. I thought, wow, this guy Andrew Hunt. I mean, wow, okay, get ready. I'm going to be in for a sort of a really cerebral, difficult conversation. I better have my thinking cap on and be really, you know. And he couldn't have been nicer. Couldn't have been easier. He was like just a regular dude who was just cool and easy and relaxed. And I was like, wow, man. Not that he shouldn't have been able to write that script, but I was just so not what I was picturing. And he was fantastic. He's become a beautiful friend. I adore him. The wonderful thing too was he's very honest. And in the beginning, he said, look, man, you've made a lot more films than I have. And if there's any way, I want this to be our project together. And if there's anything that you think isn't right or anything we're shooting that you know, please say, I'm going to listen to everything you have to say. And he really did. You know, he really, and I was like, well, I will, sure. But, you know, I reckon you've got it in hand. And I think the thing that if I was helpful in any way to him, you know, I think, he's not a first-time filmmaker, but kind of is a first-time filmmaker. There's a lot of anxiety that they carry when they come in. Suddenly there's 70 people around them going, what do you want us to do? You know, and I think if anything, I perhaps helped just calm him and say, man, the way you're shooting that, beautiful. This is going to be great. What if I just enter the frame there and, you know, I come in on this line? And he's like, great. So, yeah, we got in sync pretty quickly and easily, and he was just a delight. Yeah, he was great.
Fantastic. He when I spoke with him, he also sort of alluded or discussed the collaborative effort, you know, that you guys brought to the film. And I'm curious, your character, we want to be careful for spoilers. Bruce Cogburn, a reclusive former writer, former teacher, who's now kind of like trying to stay away from people. There's a bad thing in his past that he feels responsible for, although he may not be, and so he's in hiding, if you will, for many years. Do you feel like in a situation where you're able to kind of bring more to the character yourself, and it's not just you're taking what's on the page and putting that out there, but you're able to kind of invest and inject a lot more? Do you feel like those characters are more fulfilling to portray?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I never really know what it is that I bring per se, other than my own response to the script. And you know, for me, the experience of reading a script and then agreeing to say yes and getting on board and then making the film can vary. Okay. Because things like this, for example, I could have started to shoot it the next day. You know, I really could have gone, right, well, okay, this is very clear to me, let's go. Other things where I go, great story, great character, but I can't quite work out who I would be, how I play him. So I have to then sort of do a whole lot of work, and that work involves lots of conversations with the director or just sort of thinking about through people that I know and who might fit the bill. But I suppose even with something like Infernal Machine, which to me was fully formed,
Okay.
I suppose I do bring something, and that might just be about the energy of a character that Andrew hadn't necessarily pictured, but I've happened to just bring it. But I'm not, I don't really know if Andrew's going to go, great, do that. It's not because I've said I'm going to bring this kind of energy. I just sort of start working on it together. And, you know, I've had directors sort of say to me, oh, I think the character should be just a bit more calm, or I think the character needs to be a bit, you know, so there's all those discussions anyway. But I think with something like this, I responded so sort of quickly to it. I feel like I didn't bring anything. I feel like it was just all there, and I just kind of executed it, you know, like with Memento and like with LA Confidential and all those great jobs that I've gotten to do. You know, you just sort of go, I didn't do anything. I just saw what it was you wanted, and I did it.
Right. Well, that is brilliant insight. And you mentioned Memento a couple of times, and I want to tell you, something I told Andrew was this. After my wife and I watched the film, she said, this was a direct quote from her, this is not me. She said, this is the movie that the Memento generation has been waiting for.
Okay, right.
And I was going to ask you about that.
Andrew did tell me that you'd said that. Okay, so that was you. Right. Yeah, that was.
I was curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I agree. I really agree. You know, I think that Memento just flipped things on their head. You know, in a way, we've seen since Memento, and obviously we're all very aware of the genius of Chris Nolan. He's like no one else, and Memento was just incredible. Everything about it was incredible anyway, but the way in which it sort of transformed filmmaking and film sort of viewing, you know, and it was necessary. It opened up a whole kind of slew of, you know, not copycat kind of films, but films that, like, you look at 21 Grams and all these things that came afterwards. It sort of went, we can use it's like a new technology's been developed, you know, and it's like when the whole 90-degree shutter thing occurred and everyone started using it, you know, suddenly everything looks all sort of jittery, and, you know, Saving Private Ryan used it and we used it in Monte Cristo, and, you know, it just becomes a technology that everyone gets their hands on and goes, aha, this adds to our arsenal as far as how to make films. Nolan did it with Memento, with time and the elements of time. And, you know, sure there'd been films before that showed flashbacks and that played with time, but he did it in such an assured, original kind of way that everybody went, right, yeah, we can utilize that as well. And I think there's something about this that falls into that camp. You know, it's hard to suggest that anyone really is as innovative as Chris Nolan. I mean, they come along, you know, Kubrick was probably the last one, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, and Tarantino, as you know, have shown behind you. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this film, I mean, I think it breaks new ground. It's hard for me to be really objective yet.
Sure.
You know, because I think a lot of my understanding of the films that I do really does come from the years of discussions afterwards with people where I go, right, it actually had that effect, because I'm so inside it. I can watch it and go, yep, it all works. Fantastic. Wow, this is really, and of course I have a response to the script when I read the script and go, wow. But it's hard for me to necessarily be completely objective about it. But I do think that there's something innovative about this film. And I think that he takes some sort of devices in film making in the past, the thriller, etc., and kind of flips them, or kind of just adds to them and adds emotional weight to them. So I do think there's something very original about this film. But at the same time, I think there's something, as you say, that connects this film to films like Memento, because there were lots of copycat films that didn't quite nail it. Whereas I think this one nails it. It's really brilliant.
Oh, I think it timed out there for a second. Sorry, the screen timed out for just a second. Guy, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you said. I completely agree with. I'm a huge fan of the Infernal Machine. I'm glad that lots more people are going to get to see it now. And I can talk about it with them. It's out now on digital, and people can go rent it, buy it, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
So thank you very, very much for taking time to chat today, Guy. Thank you.